I was wrong. Man, Xavier Lee and Cedric Coward are out. In particular, Xavier Lee thought this guy could land at Kentucky and be coached by Pope. He narrowed his list down to 3, and wouldn't you know it, one of the teams is coached by Pitino? Let's talk more about that. Before the news, subscribe to the channel. The decision by Xavier Lee and Cedric Coward to narrow their lists of final schools, with both excluding the Kentucky Wildcats from the process, is yet another chapter in the ongoing drama of college recruiting. While the absence of these players from the Wildcats program may be seen as a disappointment for BBN, there are nuances to this situation that deserve to be explored with balance and optimism. Xavier Lee, in particular, drew attention by including St. John's, led by coach Rick Pitino. Among his 3 finalists, Kansas and Florida round out the list. For Kentucky fans, this choice may be somewhat nostalgic, as Pitino is remembered as one of the architects of the Wildcats' past glory. However, Lee's decision to not consider Kentucky raises interesting questions about the role of the coach-player connection in the recruiting process. Mark Pope, while relatively new to the Wildcats' helm, has demonstrated a modern and engaging approach to talent development. His philosophy focused on preparing athletes for success on the court and for life after basketball is something that many players deeply value. One could argue that Lee, by choosing another path, missed out on the opportunity to be molded by a coach whose leadership style combines discipline, innovation, and a genuine commitment to individual growth. That's not to say, however, that either Lee or Coward made the wrong decisions. Both are following the path they believe is best for their careers and personal goals. College recruiting is, after all, a two-way street. Each player seeks an environment that aligns with his aspirations, and each program tries to find the pieces that complete its tactical puzzle. For Lee, the chance to work with Pitino could represent a unique opportunity to learn from a renowned strategist, while Coward, with his 5 finalists, appears to be seeking out programs with recent history of elite basketball success. Despite these losses, it's important to note that Kentucky is still in a unique position. The program's infrastructure, passionate fan base, and reputation as a reliable springboard to the NBA remain powerful draws. Additionally, Mark Pope and his staff have shown resilience and creativity in recruiting. There are still openings to fill, and names like Cade Tyson are under the radar. The strategy of waiting until the final moments of the transfer portal can yield positive surprises, something that has proven to be true in previous seasons. What makes recruiting so fascinating is precisely this unpredictability. Players who initially seemed out of reach may emerge as viable options, while others who seem certain to choose different paths end up choosing different paths. For Kentucky, this means that while Lee and Coward are no longer on the table, the program still has multiple opportunities to strengthen its roster. The need for a player who can fill the gap on the perimeter, especially on three-point shooting, remains a clear priority. We wish Xavier Lee and Cedric Coward well on their journeys, regardless of where they decide to play. Both are talented athletes with the potential to shine at the next level, and their choices reflect their personal ambitions and visions. For Lee, the chance to be coached by Rick Pitino could be transformative, but it's also worth remembering that he'll be missing out on the opportunity to be part of a program that, under Pope's leadership, is constantly evolving to meet the demands of modern basketball. Let's move on because there are other guys to come. The era of the diaper dandy, the young prodigy who entered college basketball straight out of high school, promised to be the next big NBA star, seems to be coming to an end. Its place has been taken by a new reality, the era of the zero-star recruit, underrated or underhyped athletes who, through the transfer portal and maturing at smaller programs, emerge as key players for elite teams. And this transition is completely redefining the landscape of college basketball. The most recent and compelling example of this change is the national championship won by Florida, led by coach Todd Golden. Walter Clayton Jr., Elijah Martin, and Will Richard, three players who began their careers in mid-major leagues and had just 3 recruiting stars combined, formed the core of a team that not only competed with the giants of the sport, but surpassed them. Florida didn't need blue chips or McDonald's All-America recruits to lift the trophy. She used the modern recipe for college success: smart use of the transfer portal and strategic roster construction. This scenario puts Kentucky, one of the most iconic programs in college basketball, at a critical crossroads under Mark Pope. After years of absolute dominance under John Calipari, built largely on the back of elite high school recruits, the Wildcats now face a fundamental challenge: adapt to the new reality of the sport or risk falling behind. Calipari has become synonymous with an approach that worked brilliantly for more than a decade. Take the best freshmen in the country, groom them for a year, and send them to the NBA. However, as the rules changed and the transfer portal became a powerful tool, this strategy began to show signs of fatigue. Teams like Florida have shown that it is possible to build competitive teams without relying exclusively on green teenagers, betting on experienced and mature players from other programs. Mark Pope, aware of this transformation, decided to embark on the transfer roulette. He inherited a roster in flux after Calipari left for Arkansas, and, in an effort to quickly rebuild Kentucky's competitiveness, dove headfirst into the portal. The results were clear: a makeshift but functional team that made it to the Sweet 16 last season. Now, with more time and resources to plan, Pope is shaping Kentucky his way, taking an analytical and pragmatic approach to roster construction. The 4 transfers he's signed so far, including 3 defensive and range-focused centers and Pittsburgh guard Jalen Lowe, clearly reflect this shift in mindset. Pope is prioritizing tactical fit and experience over the momentary shine of a 5-star recruit. He knows that in today's college basketball, having hard data on a player video of games against elite defenses, solid stats, and performance history is far more valuable than the potential-based projections that surround high school kids. This philosophy isn't just a tactical choice, but a response to the limitations imposed by the new model of the sport. As Pope has pointed out in recent interviews, the Gateway offers a significant advantage over traditional recruiting. While high school recruits are uncertain bets, transfers have proven themselves on the court and can be more accurately evaluated. Players like Walter Clayton Jr., who had impressive averages at Iona before becoming Florida's March Madness hero, are prime examples of how this approach can pay off. Of course, this doesn't mean Kentucky will abandon freshman recruiting altogether. Pope has still signed 3 high school recruits this cycle, though far fewer than any class Calipari has assembled in his 15 years at the program. This strategic mix of young prospects and seasoned veterans reflects an attempt to balance Kentucky's tradition with the demands of the present. But the truth is that Kentucky is entering uncharted territory. The program has long been seen as the ultimate destination for top high school talent, but now it must compete in a market where transfers like Clayton from Florida and Johnny Broome from Auburn are the new stars. For many BBN fans, this transition may seem uncomfortable, especially since it challenges decades of programmatic identity. However, it is also an opportunity for reinvention. Pope is betting that careful analysis and methodical roster construction can lead Kentucky back to the top. And that's what everyone is hoping for. Comment below.